A couple was watching their 10-year-old wedding video when they spotted a little girl in the background. The problem? It was their daughter Emma, who wouldn't be born for another 3 years. But that's not the most terrifying part of this story. My name is Marcus, and I investigate cases that challenge our understanding of reality itself. Stories that make you question the very nature of time, memory, and existence. Today's case started with something as innocent as a wedding anniversary celebration, but it ended with a discovery that would shatter everything we thought we knew about the linear progression of time. Sarah and Mike Thompson were celebrating their 10th wedding anniversary on a quiet Sunday evening in March 2024. They had a tradition. Every year on this date, they would order takeout from the same restaurant where they had their first date, light some candles, and watch their wedding video while their 8-year-old daughter Emma played in her room upstairs. It was a simple, beautiful ritual that reminded them of their journey together. Their wedding day had been perfect. A small ceremony in Sarah's family church in Vermont, followed by a reception in her parents' backyard. Nothing elaborate. Just 47 close friends and family members celebrating their love on a crisp October afternoon in 2014. Sarah was a kindergarten teacher, methodical and observant by nature. Mike worked as an IT specialist for a local bank, logical and detail-oriented. They were the kind of couple who noticed things, who paid attention to details. Which is why what happened next was so impossible to dismiss. They had watched this same wedding video every year for 9 years. They knew it by heart. Sarah's nervous giggle as she walked down the aisle. Mike's voice cracking slightly as he said his vows. Her father's emotional speech during the reception. The moment when Mike's nephew spilled grape juice on his white shirt during the dancing. But on this particular Sunday evening, as they settled into their familiar routine, Sarah noticed something that made her heart skip a beat. "Mike," she said, pausing the video at exactly 4:17 p.m. timestamp. "Look at this." The video was frozen on a wide shot of the ceremony, taken from the back of the church. You could see the officiant, the wedding party, and the guests in their pews. But there, in the third row on the bride's side, was a little girl Sarah had never noticed before. The child appeared to be about 8 years old, with long brown hair and wearing a white dress. She was clapping enthusiastically and had a bright smile on her face. Nothing unusual about that. There had been several children at the wedding, except Sarah recognized this child. It was Emma. Their daughter Emma, who wouldn't be born until December 15th, 2017, more than 3 years after the wedding. "That's impossible," Mike said, leaning closer to the television screen. "Emma we weren't even trying to have kids yet in 2014. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. She rewound the video and played it again. There was no mistaking it. The little girl in the white dress, clapping joyfully during their wedding ceremony, was unmistakably their daughter. Sarah and Mike spent the next hour going through the entire wedding video frame by frame. The little girl, who looked exactly like their daughter Emma, appeared in 17 different shots throughout the ceremony and reception. She was there during the processional, sitting quietly in the pew. She was visible during the vows, her small hands clasped together as if she understood the significance of the moment. During the reception, she could be seen dancing with the other children, her white dress twirling as she spun around. But the most chilling moment came during the bouquet toss. As Sarah's cousins and friends gathered behind her, the little girl ran up and joined the group. When Sarah threw the bouquet, it sailed over everyone's heads and landed directly in the child's small hands. The crowd cheered, and the little girl beamed with joy. Emma had caught her mother's wedding bouquet 3 years before she was born. "We need to call someone," Sarah whispered, her voice shaking. "This isn't possible.
People don't travel through time. Children don't appear at events before they exist.
But who do you call when reality itself seems to be broken? Mike, ever the logical one, suggested they start with the wedding videographer. Maybe there was a technical explanation. Maybe the footage had been corrupted or edited somehow. Maybe their memories were playing tricks on them. The videographer was a man named David Chen, who ran a small but successful wedding video business in Vermont. He had filmed hundreds of weddings over his 15-year career and prided himself on his attention to detail and professional equipment. When Sarah called him the next morning, David was initially dismissive. "Sometimes couples think they see things in old videos," he said. "The mind plays tricks. You might be projecting your daughter's current appearance onto a different child who was at the wedding." But Sarah persisted. She described the little girl in detail: the long brown hair, the white dress, the distinctive crescent moon birthmark on her left wrist. She mentioned specific moments where the child appeared in the video. David's tone changed. "I'll need to see the footage," he said quietly. "Can you bring me the original?" They met at David's studio the following evening. David was a man in his 40s, with graying hair and the calm demeanor of someone who had seen it all. He loaded their wedding video into his professional editing equipment and began reviewing the footage with the practiced eye of someone who analyzed video for a living. For the first few minutes, David's expression remained neutral, but as he continued watching, his brow furrowed. He stopped the video, rewound sections, and watched them again. He enhanced certain frames, zoomed in on details, and applied various filters to the footage. "This is extraordinary," he finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've been doing this for 15 years. I know every guest who was at your wedding. I know every child who attended. This little girl, she shouldn't be here." David pulled out a thick folder containing contact sheets, thumbnail prints of every shot he had taken during their wedding. He spread them across his desk and began pointing to specific images. "Here, here, and here," he said, indicating multiple photos. "She appears in my still photography as well, but I have no memory of this child being at your wedding. None at all. Before I tell you what else they found on that wedding video, you need to understand something about Emma. She's not just any 8-year-old. She has a birthmark on her left wrist, a distinctive crescent moon shape that doctors said was incredibly rare. In the wedding video, the little girl is wearing a white dress, and when she waves at the camera, you can clearly see that exact same birthmark. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just a video anomaly. The child appeared in both the moving footage and the still photographs. She had been documented by professional equipment, captured from multiple angles, recorded with precision timing. "There's something else," David continued, his voice growing more troubled. "I always keep detailed notes about every wedding I film. Guest lists, special requests, family dynamics. It helps me know who to focus on during the ceremony." He pulled out a notebook from 2014 and flipped to the pages about Sarah and Mike's wedding. "According to my notes, there were 47 guests at your wedding, 23 adults and 24 children. But when I count the people visible in this footage," he paused, counting again, "there are 48 guests. The numbers don't match." Sarah felt the world tilting beneath her feet. "You're saying that Emma was an extra person at our wedding? Someone who shouldn't have been there according to your official count?" "I'm saying that according to every record I have, every guest list I was given, every head count I did that day, this child did not exist at your wedding. Yet here she is, clear as day, in both video and photographs."
David enhanced the footage using professional software, isolating frames that showed the little girl most clearly. The image quality was sharp enough to see individual details: the texture of her white dress, the way her hair caught the light, and most unmistakably, the crescent moon birthmark on her left wrist. The lighting on this child is consistent with all other subjects in the same frames, David explained as he analyzed the technical aspects of the footage. Her shadows fall in the correct directions for the time of day and camera position. There's no evidence of post-production editing or digital manipulation. He pulled up metadata from the video files. This footage was shot continuously on October 18, 2014, using my Canon XA10. The timestamps are sequential. There are no gaps or jumps that would indicate editing. Whatever we're looking at here, it was captured in real time during your wedding ceremony. Sarah watched as David zoomed in on the moment during the bouquet toss. The little girl's face was clearly visible as she reached up to catch the flowers. Her expression was one of pure joy and excitement, the natural reaction of a child participating in a fun wedding tradition. "I've filmed over 300 weddings," David said slowly. "I've seen camera malfunctions, lighting tricks, and every kind of technical issue you can imagine. But I've never seen anything like this. This child appears to have been physically present at your wedding, interacting with other guests, participating in the celebration." He showed them another enhanced frame from the reception. The little girl was dancing in a circle with other children, holding hands and laughing. "Look at the other children's reactions," David pointed out. "They're including her in their games naturally. They're not acting like she's a stranger or an unexpected visitor. It's as if she belonged there, as if she was always supposed to be part of your wedding celebration." Mike studied the footage with his analytical mind. "But how is this possible? How does a child attend an event 3 years before she's born?" David shook his head. "I don't know. But what I can tell you with absolute certainty is that this footage is authentic. This little girl was really there on your wedding day. She was physically present, interacting with guests, and participating in your celebration. The question isn't whether this happened. The question is how." Now here's where this gets absolutely chilling. Emma's parents, Sarah and Mike, decided to show the video to Emma herself. When the little girl saw herself in her parents' wedding video, she didn't seem surprised. She just smiled and said, "Oh, that's when I went to the pretty party." She had never seen this video before in her life. That evening, Sarah and Mike sat down with Emma in their living room. They had debated how to approach this conversation with their 8-year-old daughter. How do you ask a child about appearing in a video 3 years before she was born? They decided to keep it simple. They told Emma they had found some old videos and wanted to show her something interesting. They queued up the wedding video to one of the clearest shots of the little girl in the white dress. "Emma, sweetheart," Sarah said gently, "do you recognize anyone in this video?" Emma looked at the screen with the casual interest of a child being shown family footage. But when the little girl in the white dress appeared, Emma's face lit up with recognition. "Oh," she exclaimed, clapping her hands together. "That's me at the pretty party." Sarah and Mike exchanged glances. "The pretty party?" Mike asked carefully. "Yes, the party where Mommy wore the beautiful white dress and everyone was so happy. I remember. I caught the flowers when Mommy threw them up in the air." Sarah's hands began to tremble. "Emma, honey, when did you go to this party?" "When I was little," Emma replied matter-of-factly. "Before I lived here with you. I was visiting for the pretty party." Mike leaned forward. "Visiting from where, sweetheart?" Emma's brow furrowed as if she was trying to remember something from a very long time ago.
from the waiting place, the place where children wait until it's time to be born. The room fell silent. Sarah felt tears welling up in her eyes, but she forced herself to continue the conversation. "Can you tell us more about the waiting place, Emma?"
"It's very nice there," Emma said with the simple honesty of a child. "There are lots of children, and we can see the families we're going to live with. Sometimes we're allowed to visit for special days, but we have to be very careful not to change anything important." Mike's analytical mind was reeling. "Emma, what else do you remember about the pretty party?" Emma's eyes lit up as the memories seemed to flow back.
"Oh, lots of things. The man with the funny hat kept sneezing during the talking part, and Uncle Jerry spilled the purple juice on his white shirt when he was dancing, and Grandma Sarah cried happy tears during the part where you and Mommy promised to love each other forever." Sarah gasped. Every detail Emma mentioned was accurate. Uncle Jerry had indeed spilled grape juice on his shirt during the reception. Her mother had cried during the vows. The officiant had been fighting a cold all day and had sneezed repeatedly during the ceremony. But these were details that hadn't been captured in the video. They were moments that only people who had actually been present at the wedding would remember. "Emma," Sarah said, trying to keep her voice steady, "how do you know about Uncle Jerry's shirt? That's not in the video we just watched." "Because I was there, Mommy. I saw it happen. I wanted to help him clean it up, but the other children said I shouldn't because it might make people notice me." "Other children?" Mike asked. "The other visiting children. There were 3 of us at your pretty party. We had to stay very quiet and not draw attention to ourselves. We're only supposed to watch and remember." Emma continued describing details from the wedding with startling accuracy. She remembered the flavor of the cake, the song that played during Sarah and Mike's first dance, and even the joke that Mike's best man told during his speech. "I liked your dress so much, Mommy," Emma said, looking at Sarah with innocent eyes. "It was the most beautiful dress I had ever seen. I hoped that when I got to be born and grow up, I would get to wear a pretty white dress too someday." Sarah was crying now, unable to contain her emotions. "Emma, sweetheart, do you remember anything else about that day? Anything about how you got there or how you left?" Emma's expression grew thoughtful. "After the pretty party was over and everyone was saying goodbye, the visiting children had to leave too. A nice lady came to get us. She said it was time to go back to the waiting place because our families weren't ready for us yet." "What did this nice lady look like?" Mike asked. "She was very pretty, with long silver hair and kind eyes. She wore a white dress too, but it was different from yours, Mommy. Hers looked like it was made of stars." The next morning, Sarah called their wedding photographer, Maria Santos. Maria had been photographing weddings in Vermont for over 20 years and had an impeccable reputation for capturing every important moment of a couple's special day. When Sarah explained what they had discovered in their wedding video, Maria was initially skeptical. "Sometimes people think they recognize faces in old photos," she said diplomatically. "The mind can play tricks, especially when you're looking at images of significant events." But Sarah pressed on, describing the little girl in detail and mentioning that she appeared in multiple shots throughout the day. She described the white dress, the long brown hair, and most importantly, the distinctive crescent moon birthmark on the child's left wrist. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "The crescent moon birthmark," Maria repeated slowly. "On her left wrist?" "Yes," Sarah confirmed. "It's very distinctive. Emma's pediatrician said it was quite rare." "I need to check something," Maria said, her voice suddenly urgent.
Can you come to my studio this afternoon? And bring your daughter if possible. When Sarah, Mike, and Emma arrived at Maria's photography studio that afternoon, they found Maria hunched over a large light box, examining contact sheets with a magnifying glass. Her usually composed demeanor had been replaced by obvious agitation. "I've been going through every photo from your wedding," Maria said without preamble, "and I found something that's been bothering me for 10 years. She gestured to the contact sheets spread across the light box. "These are proof sheets from your wedding day. Every single photograph I took, in the order I took them. 847 photos total." Maria pointed to a specific image on one of the contact sheets. "Photo number 312, taken during the bouquet toss." Sarah leaned in to look. There, clear as day, was the little girl in the white dress, her arms raised triumphantly as she held Sarah's wedding bouquet. The image was sharp and well lit, showing the child's face in perfect detail. "Now look at this," Maria continued, pointing to Emma, who was standing beside Sarah. "Same facial structure, same hair, same distinctive birthmark." The resemblance was undeniable. The little girl in the 10-year-old photograph was identical to Emma. "But here's what's been haunting me," Maria continued. "I always keep detailed shot lists for every wedding, notes about who I'm photographing and when. It helps me make sure I don't miss any important family members or special moments." She pulled out a weathered notebook and flipped to pages marked "Thompson Wedding, October 2014. According to my notes, I was specifically asked to photograph the bouquet toss because Sarah's grandmother had caught the bouquet at her own wedding 60 years earlier. It was a family tradition. I set up my position, adjusted my camera settings, and waited for the perfect shot. Maria paused, studying the photograph again. "But I have no memory of this child catching the bouquet, none at all. According to my notes, Sarah's cousin Jennifer was supposed to catch it." But Emma remembered more than just the pretty party. She described details that were never filmed. She knew about the flower girl tripping during the ceremony. She remembered the best man spilling wine on his shirt. She even knew that Grandma cried during the vows. Details that happened off camera. Details that only wedding guests would know. Maria spread out more contact sheets across the light box. "This child appears in 23 of my photographs from your wedding. 23. That's not someone who just wandered into a few background shots. That's someone who was actively participating in your wedding celebration." She pointed to various images. "Here she is during the ceremony, sitting with what appear to be family members. Here she is during the reception, dancing with other children. Here she is at the cake cutting, looking up at you both with the biggest smile. In every single photo, she looks happy, engaged, and completely at home, like she belongs there, like she's part of the family." Emma, who had been quietly looking at the photographs, suddenly spoke up. "That one's my favorite," she said, pointing to a photo of herself during the cake cutting. "I was so excited to see Mommy and Daddy cut the pretty cake. I wanted to make sure I remembered everything about the pretty party." Maria's face went pale. "She just referred to it as the pretty party. That's exactly what she called it in my notes." She flipped frantically through her notebook. "Here it is. I wrote this down because it was so unusual. Little girl in white dress keeps referring to the event as the pretty party. Sweet child, very polite, but I can't remember who she came with." The room fell silent. Maria had written those exact words in 2014, immediately after the wedding. She had documented Emma's presence and even recorded her unique way of describing the celebration. "There's something else," Maria said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Something I've never told any client before because it sounded too strange."
She looked directly at Emma. "During the reception, this little girl came up to me and said something that I wrote down because it was so unusual for a child to say." Maria flipped to another page in her notebook. She said, "Thank you for taking pictures of the pretty party. These pictures will be very important someday, when Mommy and Daddy need to remember that love travels through time." Sarah felt her legs go weak. She said that? Emma said that when she was supposedly visiting from before she was born? "I wrote it down because it gave me chills," Maria admitted. "A child that young doesn't usually speak about love and time in such philosophical terms. But she said it with such certainty, like she knew something the rest of us didn't." Emma smiled and nodded. "The Star Lady told us visiting children that we should always remind the grown-ups that love is stronger than time. She said that's why we're allowed to visit for pretty parties, to make sure love gets remembered properly." Word of Emma's impossible appearance at her parents' wedding began to spread through their small Vermont community. Sarah had confided in her sister, who told a friend, who mentioned it to her neighbor. Within 2 weeks, the story had reached Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell, a quantum physicist at the University of Vermont who specialized in temporal mechanics. Dr. Hartwell was initially skeptical when she received a call from Sarah Thompson. She had heard countless stories from people who claimed to have experienced supernatural events, and she had learned to approach such claims with scientific rigor. But when Sarah mentioned that they had professional video and photographic documentation of their daughter appearing at events before her birth, Dr. Hartwell's interest was piqued. "If what you're describing is true," she told Sarah over the phone, "then we're looking at evidence of temporal displacement that could revolutionize our understanding of time itself." Dr. Hartwell agreed to examine the evidence, but she insisted on bringing a team of experts. She contacted Dr. James Morrison, a digital forensics specialist who worked with law enforcement to detect fraudulent video evidence. She also reached out to Dr. Sarah Chen, a developmental psychologist who specialized in childhood memory formation. The team met at the Thompson house on a Saturday morning in April 2024. They brought sophisticated equipment, video analysis software, digital microscopes, and devices that could detect any signs of post-production editing. Dr. Morrison began by examining the wedding video frame by frame, using professional software that could detect even the smallest signs of digital manipulation. He analyzed compression artifacts, pixel patterns, and metadata to determine if the footage had been altered. The metadata confirms that this video was shot on October 18, 2014, using a Canon XA10 professional camcorder, he announced after several hours of analysis. "The timestamps are consistent, there are no signs of digital editing, and the image quality matches what we would expect from this camera model." Dr. Morrison enhanced various frames, zooming in on the little girl's face and examining every detail. "The lighting on the child is consistent with the lighting on other subjects in the same frames. Her shadows fall in the correct directions. There's no evidence of digital insertion." He paused the video on a frame showing Emma waving during the ceremony. "This child was physically present when this footage was recorded. There's no technical explanation for how she could have been added to this video after the fact." Dr. Chen, meanwhile, was conducting a detailed interview with Emma about her memories of the wedding. She used age-appropriate techniques designed to determine whether Emma's memories were genuine or if they had been influenced by watching the video. "Emma's recall of the event is remarkably detailed and specific," Dr. Chen reported to the team. "She describes sensory experiences, the taste of the cake, the smell of the flowers, the feeling of the white dress fabric. She remembers emotional moments and interactions that weren't captured in any video or photography. Dr. Chen had Emma draw pictures of what she remembered from the wedding. The 8-year-old's drawings showed surprising architectural accuracy of the church layout, correct color schemes for the decorations, and details about guests' clothing that matched the photographic evidence. Most significantly, Dr. Chen continued, Emma's memories include details that contradict the official wedding narrative. She insists that there were other visiting children at the wedding, and she describes interactions with them that seem to have been invisible to the adult guests. The wedding photographer has been in business for 30 years. When Sarah and Mike showed him the video, his face went white. He pulled out his original contact sheet from their wedding, the one he keeps of every photo he takes. In photo number 247, clear as day, there's Emma, standing exactly where she appears in the video. He has no memory of a child being there. Dr. Hartwell, who had been quietly observing and taking notes, finally spoke up. What we're dealing with here appears to be a documented case of temporal displacement, a consciousness from one time period manifesting in a different time period, complete with physical presence and interactive capabilities. She looked at the assembled evidence, the videos, photographs, professional documentation, and Emma's detailed memories. In theoretical physics, we've long debated whether consciousness could exist independently of linear time, whether the human mind might be capable of transcending temporal boundaries under certain circumstances. Are you saying that Emma somehow traveled back in time to attend our wedding? Sarah asked. I'm saying that Emma's consciousness appears to have been present at your wedding, despite the fact that her physical body wouldn't exist for another 3 years. It's as if her soul was allowed to attend this significant family event before her birth. Dr. Hartwell pulled out a tablet and showed them diagrams of theoretical time models. Traditional physics views time as linear, past, present, future in a straight line. But quantum mechanics suggests that time might be more fluid, more interconnected. If consciousness operates on a quantum level, it might not be bound by the same temporal restrictions as physical matter. The fact that Emma remembers the experience suggests that consciousness can maintain continuity across temporal boundaries. She experienced the wedding, formed memories, and retained those memories through her birth and early childhood. Dr. Morrison had continued his analysis and made another discovery. I've been examining the metadata from Maria Santos's photographs, and I found something unusual. Every photo that contains this child shows timestamp anomalies. He displayed a series of photographs on his laptop screen. These photos were taken in sequence during the bouquet toss. Photo 311, Photo 312, Photo 3 on 13. But the timestamps show microsecond inconsistencies that suggest temporal distortion around the child's location. It's as if time itself was slightly bent in the immediate vicinity of this child's presence. Dr. Hartwell's research team had expected to complete their investigation and publish a paper about an isolated temporal anomaly. They never anticipated what happened next. Within 2 weeks of their initial findings being discussed at a quantum physics conference, Dr. Hartwell's university office was flooded with calls from families across the country. Parents were calling to report that their children had appeared in photographs and videos from events that predated their births. The stories were remarkably consistent. Children appearing at weddings, birthday parties, family reunions, always appearing happy and engaged, always participating naturally, and always remembered afterward by the children themselves. Dr. Hartwell established a research protocol and began documenting each case systematically. What she discovered challenged everything the scientific community thought they knew about time and consciousness. Case after case showed the same pattern. Children appearing at significant family events before their birth, retaining clear memories and demonstrating knowledge they couldn't have acquired through normal means. One case involved 9-year-old David Chen from Seattle. David appeared in professional wedding photographs from his parents' ceremony in 2013, 2 years before his birth. But David's case was unique because he had been adopted. His adoptive parents had no knowledge of his existence when they got married. David somehow knew he was going to be their son before they knew they were going to adopt him, Dr. Hartwell explained. He appeared at their wedding celebrating the formation of the family unit he would eventually join. Dr. Hartwell began to develop a theoretical framework for what she termed consciousness-based temporal displacement. She hypothesized that human consciousness, particularly in its pre-birth state, might exist in a quantum superposition that allowed it to transcend normal temporal boundaries. We know that quantum particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously until observed, she explained. Perhaps consciousness, before it becomes fully anchored to a physical body through birth, maintains this quantum flexibility. Under certain circumstances, specifically around intense emotional events involving their future family, this pre-birth consciousness might be able to briefly manifest in our timeline. The research team discovered that the temporal displacement always seemed to work in one direction, children appearing in the past, never adults appearing in the future. Dr. Hartwell theorized that this was because consciousness becomes increasingly anchored to linear time as it accumulates experiences. Birth appears to be the moment when consciousness fully commits to a single timeline, she explained. Before birth, consciousness exists in a more fluid state. After birth, it becomes progressively more bound to linear temporal experience. What I'm about to tell you next will change everything you think you know about time itself. Because this isn't the only family this has happened to. When word got out about Emma's impossible appearance at her parents' wedding, 47 other families came forward with identical stories, children appearing in events that happened before they were born. And every single one of these children remembers being there. As Dr. Hartwell's research gained attention, it attracted government interest. In June 2024, representatives from the Department of Temporal Security arrived with instructions to cease her research immediately. Your research has been classified as a matter of national security, Agent Sarah Mitchell explained. The Temporal Protection Act gives us authority to confiscate any research that could destabilize public understanding of time. Dr. Hartwell made copies and uploaded encrypted files to secure servers overseas. The 47 families received visits from federal agents and signed non-disclosure agreements. Sarah and Mike were told Emma's case was classified, and they must never discuss it publicly. Despite government suppression, the children who experienced pre-birth visitations formed their own support network. They shared information about the waiting place and the Star Lady who supervised their visits. Emma explained they were love witnesses, souls allowed to observe significant family moments before birth. The Star Lady told us that love is the strongest force in the universe, Emma said. Love can reach across time and space. In December 2024, during Christmas Eve dinner, Emma stared at an empty chair. He's here, she said. My baby brother Daniel. She described a little boy with dark hair wearing a red sweater who can't wait to be born. 3 months later, Sarah gave birth to Daniel. Exactly as Emma predicted. The Thompson family was forced to sign non-disclosure agreements and their wedding video was confiscated. Publicly, they never spoke about Emma's impossible appearance, but privately, they learned that consciousness transcends time, that love connects souls across temporal boundaries, and that birth is simply when a soul commits to a single timeline. Emma grew up knowing she was part of something extraordinary. She never forgot dancing at her parents' wedding 3 years before she was born. The truth remains buried in classified files and preserved in children's memories, but someday, perhaps, the world will learn that love truly transcends everything, even time itself. In a universe where consciousness can visit the past, every moment of love becomes eternal.